we are going to kind of carry a bit of the discussion we had during the previous and have a bit more time later on for questions. I've discussed with the panelists as well, so we can kind of join these two conversations together with more interventions from the floor are there. It was very lively. We kind of didn't have time to go into all details, and I hope we're going to remedy that. So the second panel is on climate justice and energy poverty. As you said, we focused on territories. Now we're actually tackling populations, very specific populations. It's a very different kind of set of problems for policy solutions, but also obstacles to kind of, who is dealing with that. It's not only local community completely, but sometimes it's local, sometimes it's national. So I'm actually very much looking forward for these two presentations. We are starting with Miljenka Kukan. And Miljenka, without further ado, take the floor, please.
Thank you. Thank you, and I'm very, very happy to be here with you today. We were just discussing that I don't know how much you know about energy poverty, so maybe for some of you the presentation will be a bit basic. So I apologize if you have a good understanding and knowledge about energy poverty previously that you came here. So my name is Miljenka, and this is not working.
Yeah, here is changing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay. But how did I? Okay. And I'm coming from an organization called the Society for Sustainable Development. We are based in Zagreb, in Croatia, and actually this year we celebrated our 20th anniversary. We are kind of like a small organization, I would say. We have only 15 employees and around 60 members. We are actually working mainly in the areas of climate and energy. And one of our goals is actually to achieve just and carbon neutral society. And we have been very active in the area of energy poverty for the past 15 years, because that is kind of like the time that we were trying to persuade our national government and a lot of local government that this is really a hot topic and something of importance to discuss about. Okay, so what we are actually talking about when we are talking about energy poverty. So for now, we still don't have like one unique definition of energy poverty, and in its regulation on Energy and Climate Union in 2018, European Commission actually said that they do not want to create unique definition that will be definition that covers the whole European Union, but that they want particular member states to develop their own criteria and their own national definitions based on their national contexts. And in the same regulation, they appointed that all the member states need to develop something called national energy and climate plans, and that depending on the state of the state with the energy poverty in the particular member state, they would need to put in this national energy and climate plan some of the measures tackling energy poverty. So depending on the level of the risks of the number of people that are at risk of energy poverty or general poverty or social exclusion, member states has like autonomy to decide whether or not they will include some of the measures tackling energy poverty. And also, what is maybe of significance with these national energy and climate plans is that they needed to be monitored, and that member states has the obligation to report to European Commission on every 2 years on the progress that they made with the measures that they planned under energy and climate plans. And actually 2022 was the first period for which they needed to report. And based on the reports that we've seen so far, not many things has progressed in these 2 years regarding energy poverty, meaning that a lot of member states, even though they put something in their national energy and climate plans, did not actually do a lot in the implementation sense of implementing some specific measures. At the beginning of this year, Portuguese Energy Agency actually conducted a brief survey on European member states plus UK, and they tried to find out how successful member states were in the implementation of some energy poverty measures. And they also were interested in did they come up with certain definitions of energy poverty, since the Commission gave them the opportunity to decide and to develop their own definitions based on their national contexts. And as you can see in this table that I copied from the report, and the source is right here, so you can like Google it, and it is really great report. Only 14 member states actually replied to the survey, and UK, which is not member state anymore. And out of this, only 5 member states actually developed some kind of definition, plus UK that already had definition before. So when we are talking about energy poverty and energy poverty definitions, I deliberately put some of the definitions here so we can maybe analyze them a bit. Sorry. Okay, I'm not very technically competent person, as you can see. So computers are definitely not my thing. And so you can see here some of the definitions that member states created. And you will notice in these green letters that like I tried to bold the parts of definitions that are kind of relevant for energy poverty. And if you read the definitions, you will see that they are not overarching the whole problem that energy poverty is actually created of. And that energy poverty, as you will see later on in my presentation, it's transcending this triad of issues that is linked here in all the definitions, and that is combined of low income, low energy efficiency and high energy costs, which you can see in the first definition, but it's also visible in all other definitions. So for Portugal, we have like the energy poverty is the situation where people who have low income, they live in highly energy inefficient houses, and they have, because of that, high energy costs. They are the definition of energy poverty. For Italians, they say it is just difficulty to purchase the minimum number of energy goods and services. So they are not even going in the reasons why that is a difficulty for households. And then in Spain, you can see that they are defining it as a situation in which home is found where no basic needs for energy supplies can be met. And they go a bit further, and they try to explore consequences and maybe causes why somebody cannot afford minimum basic needs and services. For United Kingdom, and I'm sure that you saw this definition like a bunch of times on the internet and in policy documents, because that was kind of the first definition ever developed back in 1970s, like 50 years ago, and we still have not like moved a lot further from that definition from 50 years ago. That actually the energy poverty could be described as a situation where households struggles to afford to keep their homes at reasonable temperature, even though they do not define what would be the reasonable temperature for a particular home. And to be fair, there are different definitions of energy poverty across UK, so this is just the general one that is kind of on UK level. And then you have the definition in France, where they again just say it's a difficulty to get like basic energy needs met. And in Greece, they go a bit further, and they try to think about the causes of the energy poverty, and they try to connect these causes.
Stick, yeah.
Stick.
Just make sound.
Click me as if I'm a dog. Yeah. Okay, but you basically see this. So in Greece, they actually go a bit further, and they do explore causes, and they are linking them with the basic socioeconomic situation, and they are comparing that with the net annual income that should not be lower than 60% of national median, and then based on this average, they decide that people or households are falling in the energy poor category if these both conditions are met. Okay. So, based on what you saw here, I tried to simplify it for you, the scheme of energy poverty, because I think that you can conclude based on what you saw in the first two slides that energy poverty really goes beyond this triad of low incomes and higher energy costs and lousy energy efficiency, and that we can agree that we have different aspects of energy poverty. And one of the actually the challenges in the policy framework is that usually because of these different aspects, different ministries are reluctant to claim ownership on energy poverty, and they are trying to move their responsibility to some other ministry. So, for example, in a lot of countries, energy poverty is solely seen as a social problem, and it is under the Ministry of Welfare or Social Affairs or some similar ministry. And we can see that you cannot deal with energy poverty just from one perspective because it's kind of an overarching issue. And then in other countries you have examples where only Ministry of Energy or Economy is dealing with energy poverty just from technical perspective, and they think that if they install enough of photovoltaics or if they insulate enough households, then the issue with energy poverty will be solved. And you have these two different perspectives. One is only social, dealing with only social perspective, only with people who are either way beneficiaries of social and welfare systems. And on the other hand, you have people who are more very often some kind of techno-optimists, and they believe that if they solve the technical part of the equation, that everything will be fine. But you can see in this very basic sketch that you need to take into account different elements, not just energy aspects and not just economy aspects, but you also need to take to have in mind health aspects, because a lot of people who are living in the poverty or at the very threshold, that they are maybe above poverty threshold, but they're always dancing on this threshold, and they don't have any kind of security. They usually have a lot of different health issues, not only physical issues, but mental issues as well. And that's something that we never talk about when we are talking about energy poverty. We never talk about, for example, financial aspects below low income. What is causing low income? Is it a low level of education? Is it precarious of labor market? What is actually the cause of this low income? We are never talking about the causes of high energy costs. Why do we have high energy costs? Who are the people and the systems that are causing the energy prices to rise? So you can see here that we need to, when we are talking about energy poverty, and if we want to talk fairly about it, we need to talk also about different systemic inequalities and structural inequalities that are also related to age, gender, ethnicity, and other aspects of households. Okay, so these are, as you can see, some of the immediate effects of the energy poverty. So if you live in the energy poor conditions, and if you live in the households that are not that are not meeting some, let's say, basic energy needs, then it is fairly it is fair to say that your quality of life is very low, that your well-being is also very low, that the situation that you're living in has really negative effects on your health. As I said, not only physical health that is usually talked about, because we all, and during the discussion in the morning and yesterday in this group, we talked about different quality of air or pollution and different aspects of environmental challenges, and we can all relate that people living in isolated households could have respiratory or cardiovascular diseases, but we never think about their mental health, and we rarely think about stress that is caused by living in this situation, and situation when you need to worry about where your next meal will come from, and should you choose between buying your child or yourself a meal, or paying him or her a hospital bill, or taking him or her to the dentist, or you should buy your firewood, or pay the costs of energy bill that you need to heat or cool your house. And here on the next slides, I have some data from European level. So all the data are for 21st and 2019, and you can see in brackets the data for 2019. The data is from Eurostat, so it's for EU 27 level. So the UK has been excluded in this data. And the first point is actually on the data on poverty and social exclusion, where you can see that for in percentage for 0.5% we have the rise in comparison from 2019 to 2021. In the numbers, you have maybe by this account 3.5 million people that are worse off in 2021 than they were in 2019. But I have some other slides that you can see that actually how we interpret the data also counts, and that sometimes when we want to lower the number of people who are who are living in the poverty or in social exclusion or material deprivation, that we can kind of say one number instead of another number. Also, in the second point, you can see that people who are having households with children are more exposed to risk of energy poverty. That people, you have some numbers for particular member states, for example, for Romania or for Bulgaria, for Latvia, Slovakia, so that if you have children in your household, it's more possible that you will end up being in some category of poverty or social exclusion. And then there is another issue that we also rarely talk about, and that is a gender perspective of energy poverty, and that's also something that I noticed through the discussions yesterday and today, that we rarely talk about gender perspective in climate justice at all. So I have some slides later on that are actually discussing about the gender perspective. So if you are a woman, especially if you are a single parent woman, it's more likely that you will be poor or socially excluded than if you are a man. Also, if you're young, between 18 and 24, or if you're old, like living older than 65, it's also more likely that you will be energy poor, or socially excluded and materially deprived. So the next slide, I'll have some data on the employment status, because we saw at the beginning that one of the causes for energy poverty is low income. But what is causing low income? Usually employment status, or as a main socioeconomic characteristic that actually influences the poverty and social exclusion, because the more you earn, it is less likely that you will be poor. That would be a hypothesis, but we will see later on in some data that even the households with a high work intensity can additionally be poor and can be socially excluded, because if you work more, that does not mean that you are being paid more. You can work in some very highly intensive or really intensive labor or jobs and still don't earn enough to cover your basic energy needs and basic needs to have a decent life. And that also goes if you are a woman that traditionally gets a lower pay or lower pension than men does. And that also goes for people who are inactive in labor market for whatever reason, usually because they are taking care of somebody, they are caregivers, or they are just unemployed, or for whatever other reason inactive. And they kind of are also not very often included in the statistical data when we are talking about energy poverty. And then the third row is about some of the highest share of citizens at risk of poverty in European Union, Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece. And, okay, here you can see all...
You went 2 slides.
Sorry. No, I went a couple of slides. So here you can see all that in terms of like graphic graphs. Yeah, I don't know how to point that, but here you can see that female are like at higher risk, young people between 18 and 24, people with lower level of education, and also people who are unemployed or otherly inactive. So just summarize what I'm not doing that, I promise. It goes itself. Okay, so here are also some numbers. I will not put too much time in this slide because you already saw it in different forms. But this is an interesting slide. So if you remember at the beginning, I told you that by one classification, around like 22%, 22.4% of people were living at risk of poverty and social exclusion in 2021. That was around 95.4 million people. But if you calculate these numbers that are like actually intersecting different segments of poverty and social exclusion, you will come up with the number of 130 million people that are living in some kind of either material deprivation, either poverty or social exclusion, or they're living in a household with low work intensity. So in 2016, to go back to the policy side of the energy poverty, in 2016 Energy Commission, like after a very long period of different types of advocacy from different sides of and different stakeholders, established something called Energy Poverty Observatory. That ceased to exist in 2020 when it was replaced by Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. So why it was replaced? Because Energy Poverty Observatory, even though the idea behind it was great to observe and monitor energy poverty in member states. Nothing was actually happening because everything was like on voluntary basis. So member states could, but they did not need to send the information to observatory, and people working in observatory and researchers trying to deal with energy poverty try to contact like national governments and different stakeholders in member states and try to gather as much information as possible, but that actually did not work. So in 2020, they decided to change the perspective a bit. They founded Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. And the sole role of Energy Poverty Advisory Hub is to actually help member states and help municipalities and citizens directly by providing technical help. So once or twice a year, they have like these open calls that are promoting either one of these steps. So besides of providing technical assistance, they also develop different types of guidelines for citizens and for people that are either at risk or working with people who are at risk or different stakeholders. And they also are putting a lot of effort in education and educating people who want to know more about energy poverty. So the first thing that they did is they developed this guide to energy poverty diagnosis, because they noticed that in many member states, people actually don't know what they're talking about when they're talking about energy poverty. One of the reasons was because there is no definition, there is no indicators, there is no criteria, nobody's actually taking care of data collection. So they wanted to give money to local experts to collect the data, to identify the situation in particular energy, in particular country, sometimes just in particular locality, for example, in some city or some municipality. They wanted to understand, so the first step would be to understand the complexity of energy poverty, then to identify it and to engage stakeholders that are involved in the municipal or national life or decision making or whatever. Then they wanted to establish some kind of analysis. Because they need the data. And if you look very carefully on the slides that I showed you before, all the data are from Eurostat, and all the data have been collected by statistical offices. And the data that's been collected, they don't actually try to collect data on energy poverty. They're just collecting data on income or on household budget or on different economic statuses of households. And then you need, if you did any kind of research, you know that you need to have some socio-demographic battery of questions in your survey. So you, like by default, get some of the data on gender, age, I don't know, ethnicity or so forth, but you are not actually deliberately coming up with the collection of data for energy poverty. And that's why the third step is very important one. And then they wanted to in fourth step, they wanted to actually define the information that are going to be collected, because if you are collecting just general information that you can like download from Eurostat, then the technical assistance is actually not assisting you very much. Okay, okay.
Stressful.
Very stressful. And then you have 3 more steps. So once you collect the data and get your additional evidence, then you process. Then you need to like process this data and this information, and then at the end you actually need to define your local energy poverty and build some kind of strategy. So far they have like been implementing this process of technical assistance for 2 years. A lot of money went to Spain, Portugal, what we traditionally call European EU 15 countries, because they have been dealing a lot longer with the issue, and they are maybe more skillful in writing project proposals. But they also are trying to give as much 13 countries as well. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of you are from Serbia here. The European Poverty Advisory Hub just works for member states, and they do not include people from neighborhood countries. But they did develop something called Energy Atlas, where you actually can submit the examples of your own projects from countries that are all over the world. And they are involved in organizing something called International Energy Poverty Week that is happening each year in February, where you can present the information and also learn about the energy poverty. So this slide actually is something else that they developed. These are actually indicators for measuring energy poverty, because they noticed, and the work or the basis for these indicators was done by observatory, but then the hub actually take it a step further, and they actually divided a lot of indicators that were related to energy poverty into primary and secondary ones, because they wanted to motivate countries and member states to monitor the state of energy poverty in their countries, and they wanted to help them to see that they can collect some data even though they maybe don't have resources or inclination to do some overarching survey on the national level. So they divided these indicators into primary ones in 3 groups, and I will just today show you the primary ones. So you have indirect indicators that are related to areas on utility bills. Then you have indicators that are based on some direct measurement, so your low absolute expenditure or high share of energy expenditure in your income. And then you have some indicators that are based on self-assessment, so the inability to keep your home adequately warm or cold, depending on are we talking about winter or summer energy poverty. I'm clicking just once, I promise you guys. I don't know why that keeps happening. And these are some data for Croatia. You can see that all the data here are from household budget survey or from EU-SILC, which is actually trying to collect the data on household income. And based on different, so if you combine this into energy poverty index that we are currently trying to develop, then you will actually get a nice number that is around 7% or 8% people in Croatia that are suffering from energy poverty. And then we get to the definition. So why is this definition different than the ones that I showed you before? It's not because it was developed on the project that we worked on called Empowerment, and it's not because, it's because the definition is actually, if you read it really carefully, taking it into account not only the triad of reasons that we have seen in all the definitions that are developed by different member states, but we also added something that is really, really important, that this energy consumption is actually enabling people to have effective participation in society. And that's actually what has been missing in all the definitions that I showed you before, that they are not taking into account that if you're suffering from energy poverty, you cannot be actually integrated member of society as such. And if you're suffering from energy poverty, then you have living in suboptimal conditions, and your well-being is actually not being met. And this is the Energy Atlas. I don't have internet here, but if you go to Energy Poverty EU Atlas, then you will see over 100 examples of different energy poverty projects that have been implemented all over the world, not only in European Union. You see here that in Bosnia there are currently 4 projects that are being implemented, and unfortunately in Serbia, Montenegro, Kosovo, and we don't see here Macedonia, but we have no energy poverty related projects, unfortunately. Okay, and then I said at the beginning that gender is actually something that has been very neglected in all the discussions about climate justice, and it has been neglected also in the discussion about energy poverty. And we have here, this is also something that we have been working on through the Empowerment Project. We tried to explore actually this gender dimension of the energy poverty, and we had only one country that was outside EU, Albania, that was part of the consortia. And we tried to see what would be the reasons why would gender be actually relevant for energy poverty, to have some concrete data and to show people who are decision makers and who are shaping the policies related to energy poverty, that they need to have specific measures that are targeting women and other people that are specifically vulnerable. So your first dimension is physiological and health dimension, which I don't think that I need to explain further. Then we have decision-making dimension, which is often neglected, that like women are living predominantly or they're spending more time at home. Often they are doing unpaid labor as being caregivers or providing some other types of care for other people living in their household, but they don't have the same level of right to make a decision regarding energy-related questions. Then you have the economic aspects that we also don't need to explain specifically, and then you have social and cultural, because we still, unfortunately, in 2023 live in a very strong patriarchal system that is very centered on men, and it is very, it has, unfortunately, really strongly defined gender roles in paid and unpaid labor. And we have other differences that also need to be acknowledged. And then we have some data that are also from some research that have been done back in 2014, but not much change in 21st or 23rd. So women still make up around 80% of single parent households in Europe. And they still have the less ability or less opportunities to full work time or to have the same paid job as their male colleagues. And also in this slide on the right, you can see that material deprivation, as we also said before, is more likely to happen if you are female than if you are male. And younger mothers, which is not surprising, have a higher risk of having difficulties with meeting their minimum needs. And then I think that I have maybe 5 minutes left. Okay, so the last 5 minutes I will be talking about the results of this project that is just ending on the 21st of October. And it's been one of the projects that we been implementing for past 4 years. We had 6 pilot locations, including one in Albania, one in Croatia, Slovenia, France, and Spain. And these are some of the results that we actually achieved during the project. And then I have some of the results for Zadar County. Zadar County is one of coastal counties in Croatia. You maybe have heard of it because it is well-known touristic place, but other than tourism, it's actually not well-known for any other things. And a lot of people living in Zadar County, if they're not living and working in tourism sector, they're actually not, some of their basic needs are not met. We try to actually see and explore more further the dimension of gender, health, and summer energy poverty in the course of the project. These are the results for Zadar County based on the activities that we've done in our pilot site. And some of the things that we actually did was we did a lot of do-it-yourself workshops and try to explain and teach people how they can make their own photovoltaics for their homes. We try to teach them about how to read their own energy bills and how to try to avoid being more in debt than they already have been. We also have like this 200 households that we directly helped them by providing them immediate assistance in forms of doing some household visits, doing energy audits, and providing them with very simple energy efficient tools. And then we also did some survey. So one of the results of the project was also that we developed this research tool that could be used, and later on we actually used it on some other examples as well, where we tried to collect as many data on energy poverty as possible. In this case, we covered the whole county, and 71% of the respondents were women. The survey was not, or the respondents were deliberately, have been deliberately chosen. So the sample is actually not representative for this survey, but we have some other surveys that we try to be more representative with our sample. And these are, I try to show you. These are some of the pictures from the Zadar County, and these are some of the pictures of the households people are actually living in. And you can see the mold, you can see the rotten window frames, you can see the fire stove that has no proper installed chimney, and all the I'm missing the word. When you're burning wood, then you produce smoke. Yeah, all the smoke is returning back to the room. And you can see on the first picture, actually this is one of the bedrooms of one of the families. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I have some more pictures here. So you can see, and these are houses that are lived in. They are not abandoned houses. People are still living in these houses, and often they have more than one child. Or sometimes they're occupied by elderly people, usually women that don't have pension. Because they did not work, they have not been active on the labor market, so the only support that now they receive is from welfare system. And these are some of the data. So we asked them about the installation in households, do they have, and what type of installations do they have. So some of them don't have sewage system, some of them don't have like plumbing installation, and some even don't have electrical installation. So in the course of the project, we actually installed one small photovoltaic system for one family that were disconnected from the grid because they could not afford the costs of being connected again. We asked them about the house deficiencies. So a lot of them have like rooftops are leaking, they have rotten window frames, they have wet walls, they have some breeze or draft through the doors or windows. And some of them, you can see, they don't have any of these problems. And what is actually surprising, and I think that the colleague who was talking about the survey that was done in Leskovac, sometimes like you enter the household, you see the situation they are living in, you ask them, do you have any kind of house deficiencies? And they said no. And then you need to mark no, even though you see the system and the house that they're living in. And so when she was talking about the situation in Leskovac, that reminded me that people sometimes deliberately like close their eyes to the situation they're living in, because I think that helps them cope better. So one of the questions was isolation. We asked them, do they have isolated exterior walls, floors, roofs? Usually they either don't have. So this is the bright yellow one column, or they have partially something done in their house. And then energy efficiency measures. So the orange ones is no, they don't have any type of energy efficient measures. Some, like 4% of them have new windows, and some have some partial insulation. And then we asked them about the comfort. So if you remember, the indicators, like questions are kind of following the indicators because we wanted to learn more about the energy poverty in the county. So we asked them about to like assess the comfort during the summer and during the winter. How do they feel in their own home? And like a lot of them are feeling extremely unpleasant, especially during summer. Because it's Adriatic region, and especially in the last 5 years with all the heat waves and like tropical temperature, they're not feeling very comfortable in their homes. And then we asked them about the measures to save money or to save energy costs. Sorry. Yeah, okay, thank you. So usually they are very familiar with the energy saving mechanisms, and they like usually do all the things that they can to save energy. And usually what is very like saddening is that they are saving on food purchases. So at the beginning, I told you that like when we're talking about energy poverty, sometimes we need to discuss, should I eat or should I pay my energy bill type of situation. And this is exactly what the data are showing, that people are like usually, if they need to choose between eating and paying bill, that they will rather pay bill and save somewhere else. And then we asked them about the gender roles in energy decision. We asked them who is actually making decisions in their household. We usually talked with a female or with women, because they were usually the ones at home at the time when we got there. And you can see here that like in a lot of situations, it is actually a man who is making decision or doing payment or communicating with the supplier. And then, and then we asked them about the health aspects. We had some questions about physical health, and we have some questions about emotional aspects of their life. And you can see here that a lot of them, so all the ones that are colored like orange, pink, and yellow are never, rarely, or less than half the time when like you ask them to assess, are they feeling like interested in life, or active and energetic, or calm and relaxed and cheerful and in good mood. And, sorry. Okay, and based on this, we developed some recommendations, which are to have, like, to try to create better opportunities for people who are living in this type of situation. And then this is the last slide. And I think that the most important, maybe, recommendation is the first one about the women, and the last one about recognizing mental health dimension as something that is highly affecting people living in energy poverty, and that is still being very stigmatized. And as promised before, when I was talking about the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub, you can see here, unfortunately, since I don't have internet, I cannot show you online. But if you click or if you go to Energy Poverty Advisory Hub, you can enroll into great, not very time-consuming courses. Thank you. Courses about energy poverty, and you can learn more about it. And you can, if you need any more information, you can. Okay, I'm giving up. Here you are. You can contact me on you just like send me a name. It's miljenka.kuhar@monkey.hr, and or you can find us online, and I will give you the information that you feel like you need to know. Thank you. I'm sorry about the presentation.
Thank you, Miljenka. We are waiting for the second presentation. I think the key issue for me, at least, I think is this idea of structural problem in terms of there are structural inequalities which are existing in society.
Hello everyone, my name is Robert, and I come from Niš, which is a small city in the south of Serbia, if some of you maybe don't know. I work as a pharmacist, but I'm also a social activist and political activist. And I'm a member of NGO called Roma Forum of Serbia. I don't know, my lecture today is going to be much more about that, about my activistic work through this NGO. I'll try to. Okay, so I'm not going to talk much about energy transition, because I think you heard much better lectures about that. I mean, it's basically transition from the from the fossil fuels to the non-fossil fuels. But what is important for us over here is this social aspects. There are many aspects that are important, but I think in this case the social aspect is an important one. I'm going to go much further. So, again, I'm not going to talk much about energy poverty, because you just heard a very good lecture about that. This is another one definition that I like to use, and it's a state in which the household does not have at its disposal enough opportunities to provide the required amount of energy that is necessary for the healthy and dignified life, in a way that does not endanger other basic life needs or the household or the wider community. I mean, it's not the best definition. There are better, and you heard that it depends from the country to the country. It depends from many various things. So I'm not going to talk that much about that. Another thing I think is very important is the criteria for determining energy poverty. that are not clear. So we don't know the exact number of people that are affected by the consequences of energy poverty, and I think that's a very, very, very important problem that we are facing right now. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Now I will speak about. I will speak a little bit on the case of Serbia, but the situation is similar for the whole region, and something that I'm dealing on my everyday work is the problem of substandard Roma settlements. The majority of Roma live in substandard settlements. I mean, you all know that exists. You all know that they are located mostly in our cities, but people don't know the situation that is going on inside of those settlements. Substandard Roma settlements on our region, I say on the region of Yugoslavia, started to develop a little bit after the Second World War. The position of Roma community in socialistic Yugoslavia was not that much better than it is today, but in some way Roma were tolerated if they want to settle on some areas or some places that were usually in the public ownership. And that is very important thing for us. Majority of substandard Roma settlements are built on those areas, and they started as just, I don't know, a few families are there. They are building their houses, but today there is sometimes a couple thousand people that are living on those same areas. They are usually overpopulated, and many more problems are occurring from that fact. But some of them characteristics are those ones that you can see over here. Inadequate supply of the drinking water. Believe it or not, there are thousands of people that live today in Serbia and Croatia and Bosnia. They don't have proper amount of drinking water. Inadequate communal infrastructure. I will speak much more about that later. There are people that don't have electricity today. There are people that don't have sewage systems and some other things today. Poor access to public services like schools, hospitals, some other institutions. Poor structural quality of the housing units. In some cases, there are houses that are not even built from the building materials. They are built from the industrial leftovers or similar things that are not made they shouldn't be used as building materials. They are overpopulated, and they have unresolved property legal relations of housing plots, which is huge problem. I'm going to speak about that in a few moments. Just a little bit of data. This is related to Serbia. Officially, we have 702 Roma settlements. We have 159 Roma settlements without regular access to clean drinking water. So that means that thousands of people live today like that. 65.1% of those settlements, like in which 95,000 people live today, do not have a sewage network. 14.35% of those settlements have irregular access to electricity, and you can see that 24,000 of people live there, and those are just official data. Unofficially, the percent is much bigger. There are thousands and thousands of people that live like that. And 44 Roma settlements are characterized as slums. Slums are the type of settlements where you don't have nothing of this. You don't have electricity, you don't have running water, you don't have houses that are built from the proper building materials. So you don't have absolutely nothing. Believe it or not, there are, I think, 3 or 4 maybe those kind of settlements in Belgrade. For example, city where I come from, Niš, doesn't have settlements like that, but Belgrade has them. And not just Belgrade, Zagreb also has them, and many other bigger cities have them, and they're not that much far away from the city center. They are usually inside of our cities, usually in some areas where a lot of people are passing on every day. Okay. So this is just the situation. I just wanted to describe you shortly the situation that we are facing on every day. And now I will try to explain that on a few, I will just give you a few examples. The first one is substandard settlement called the Crvena Zvezda, which is a pretty big substandard settlement. It's located in Niš, in the city where I come from. There are around, I think, 1,000 people that live there. And in 2016, they were left 6 months without electricity. And the situation with electricity in this settlement is really unique. So 1,000 people live there, and they have just 2 electricity connection in the whole settlement. They have just 2 electricity counters. So they built their electricity web inside of settlement. So somebody takes a cable, attaches it to one house, brings it to his house, and then the other ones the same, and you have this electric web in the settlement that is not according to any standards, and just 2 counters. The problem is that they have huge bills because 1,000 people on just 2 counters. Those are huge bills, and they are facing constant problems because of that. So in 2016, they decided to cut the electricity. The city decided basically that it's enough. They cut the electricity, and they were left like 6 months without electricity. As an NGO activist, we organized protest. We organized so many things. We write to the different institutions on the national level, on the international level, and it was agony for those people because it was winter. They were left like that just for 6 months. Today they have electricity, but the problem is that there is no permanent solution to their situation. It's just something that is now. The city has plans to evict those people from this area because the area is sold to the private owner. We don't know who he is, but in one moment it was a public area. Now it's privately owned, and it's a private investor. We heard just that is what we know, and the investor wants to invest to build something. We don't know what he wants to do, but the people will be evicted, so there is no permanent solution to their problem. They have electricity now, but tomorrow it can be unplugged again. We have another similar situation in Niš. I will show you that in a moment. This is another settlement. It's called 12. February, which is a little bit better now. It's better for this occasion because they were left without electricity for 9 months, and that happened last year. The problem was the settlement is not that big. There are around 100 inhabitants, and the reason why they left them without electricity is that they caught one of them in, like, I don't know, they say like he was stealing electricity in some way. So they decided not just to cut him from the electrical web, but to cut whole settlement. And that was a huge problem. Again, we organized so many, we organized, I think, like yes, I think it was five times we gathered in front of the city, in front of the city mayor to protest. We organized different protests in front of national, international as well institutions. But it lasted 9 months, believe it or not. And today they also have just a permanent solution. It's not they still don't have they don't have permanent solution. It's just something that they have electricity now, but tomorrow again it can be unplugged, and they can left without it. So I want to somehow bring the question of what can we do with these situations. I mean, it's nice to speak about energy transition. It's nice to speak about, I don't know, flying cars, electric cars, and different things. But we still have people today that don't have electricity. I mean, how to deal with those situations? And this situation is really complex because it's not just that you don't have structural conditions. You have. Many of these settlements are within our cities. They are not far away from the city centers. So there are structural possibilities that they can have electricity. But you have situation when it comes to at least the Roma community, it's discriminated on any level that you can think of. You have people that live in houses and they don't have legal rights to their houses. They don't have legal rights to the plots they build their houses on. You also have a community that is segregated in many ways. For example, you have a Roma settlement in Kraljevo. It's called Marko Orlović. Which is segregated by the wall. I think it was 2018, something like that. The local government decided to build a wall around it, and believe it or not, they said it was because of. I think it was the reason why they did it was. I know, to protect them from the bucket. From the noise, yes, basically that. Like it was a noise protection, which is like I think it's funny. So I like to somehow raise these questions: how we can solve these problems, and what should we do in these situations? And the question that I get questioned a lot is on the next one. Are renewable sources the answer to this problem? And I think that sometimes people get really easy, like, okay, yes, it is, but I think that this topic is much more complex than that. And what I wanted, actually, I would like really to hear your opinions on this topic before maybe I say my opinion, because I think this is really important. For us activists, we have more and more people coming to us and say, okay, we want to build, we want to solve this problem, and we have an idea, and our idea is, okay, we will make a solar plant in the Roma settlement and somehow provide them with energy on that way. But I really think it's a wrong way to do things, and sometimes. I'm worried how many of those ideas we have on everyday level. Everybody sees their opportunity, okay, Roma settlement, perfect situation. We have even founders who are willing to found something like that. but they are making, they are really putting us in much dangerous situation, I think. And why I think is that because if you take just one Roma settlement of those 702 settlements, and you build a solar power plant somewhere close, and you give the inhabitants of that settlement electricity like that, this is a perfect excuse for our government to say, okay, it's possible to do it on that way. We won't try to solve all those problems that I talked earlier, and to try to connect those people to the regular electric power connections. And I think that is where this is really dangerous for us, because majority of Roma settlements are within the cities, and it's possible to somehow make these regular electric connections and to provide them with electricity on that way. And I think it's really dangerous to play with those things right now, because basically our governments are just trying to avoid that. And this is a perfect excuse, at least I think like that. And I really don't think that renewable resources are always answer to the problems that are, I don't think, like a years long, a long process. So this is something I would like really to speak, and I would like to hear your ideas, and maybe what do you think how we should approach these ideas, and how we should manage these situations, because we really think that they are right now dangerous for us. Thank you.